back to another Film Hooligans Behind the Lens. I'm your host, John the host, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Jason Alt.
Hey everybody, I'm Jason the co-host.
Still.
Surprises me every time.
Tonight we are talking with director of the Telltale Heart, the short film that is cleaning up in the film festival circuit right now, McClain Lindquist. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, this is a hell of a first effort, sir. Poe's work, like Lovecraft, is often attempted but seldom done correctly. What made you choose a difficult author's adaptation for your directorial debut, and why this story specifically?
Well, I first heard this story on Halloween. I was in the third grade, and it just blew my mind. I think it was the first metaphor that I truly understood. And I went home, and my brother, who likes to read, had a lot of books, so I went to his library, and within his collection there was a book of short stories by Poe. Dove into that, just loved them all. But yeah, my favorite was always still the Telltale Heart, and at that time I was into horror movies, so I started finding all the Poe movies that I could, and I just loved them, especially The Hammer. And the other movies as well, Roger Corman. And then I got to the Telltale Heart, which I figured, since it's his best story, it would be the best adaptations. And there was just always something lacking within all of them, whether it was the psychological element or the audible element or horror or whatever it might be, the violence. They all just seemed to be missing something. So I always felt that there should be a kind of modern, definitive take on the Telltale Heart. So I just kind of went at it. It was really naivete. If we had missed one step, it wouldn't have worked. So a lot of serendipity happened, and we just went for it. And I don't know if it's, just because I made it, but I really do feel like it's the definitive version. I'm really proud of what we all created. So, yeah, and I just, I got into movies from my band, the Basement Pros. I was doing the music videos, and I was talking with our DJ, and he, was like, when are you going to make a movie? And I brought up, I always thought the Telltale Heart would be good. And I thought that would be good to do it in a short as well, because then I wouldn't, have to do a full movie. I could kind of dip my toes and see, what works and what doesn't. And we captured lightning in a bottle because everything worked. So, yeah.
That's really, that's kind of the exception to the rule when it comes to first-time filmmaking or filmmaking at all, where everything kind of lines up that way, which it seemingly did for you. And so, like, at the beginning, you always knew that this was going to be a short film. Did you ever intend to make a feature out of it?
No, I have the full-length screenplay, but I wanted to do it as a short. It was a short story. I figured I could, really pack a punch with that, and it's pretty unrelenting. So I think it was the right call.
Now, speaking of shorts, I noticed that your narrator, Sonny Grimsley, was in another short based on Poe. He did the Cask of Amontillado. Was that just a coincidence, or?
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know anyone's history, anybody that I hired top to bottom. So I didn't know what Sonny had been in or hadn't been in. But yeah, afterwards, because I have a script for the Cask as well. But yeah, that was just kind of, a coincidence, but it's neat. And I haven't seen it. He won't let me watch it. So, yeah, Sonny, speaking of, wow, I mean, he knocked it out the park. He was incredible.
I mean, the film doesn't work, with an IP that's known as well known as this doesn't work without a solid cast and just like you said, kind of like flawless execution, especially from the narrator role, and that's played by Sonny Grimsley. He has to almost throw the entire film on his back with his performance. He comes off as charming, he's menacing, he's manic, he checks all the boxes that he's supposed to do. Did you have to audition a lot of actors to find the perfect narrator, or did Sonny kind of just like, was it like a pretty easy connection that way? And did he ever tell you, he's like, damn, I feel the pressure of the importance of this role?
Well, we auditioned, I forget how many people for that specific role, but it was pushing 50. So it was a cattle call, and I did it over a couple of weeks, and had multiple people read for multiple parts. But yeah, I when he came in the first time, he drove up 6 hours and did 15 minutes, and then got right back into his car and drove back 6 hours. And I mean, that stuck out, but also like you were saying, all the nuances of the character. I saw all the softer side. That's what I was looking for with the person that I cast. I wanted it to be Anthony Perkins in Psycho, not Norman Bates, but Anthony Perkins. And he kind of checked all those boxes, and then he came back for the callback, and he drove again 6 hours, and he had walking pneumonia, which I guess now it was coronavirus. But yeah, so he was really sick, and he came up, and he didn't do too well in the callback, but I kind of always knew that he was the guy. But there was a bunch of really, really talented actors. It was a really hard decision. And unfortunately, he wasn't the first choice. It was the one time I didn't stick with my gut, and we did hire a different actor, and it fell apart, and Sonny was more than willing to jump back in.
Drive 6 more hours.
Exactly.
Yeah. But as far as the pressure, no, he never alluded to it, and he never allowed that to weigh his performance. I didn't realize until I got on set that he's method. And
oh my God.
And methods, wow. I don't know.
He had to actually kill a guy to get into character. Brutal.
But he went there, and I made the mistake of trying to correct him with one of the scenes. And I was wrong, by the way, but the narrator responded back to me, and I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be interesting.
One of those.
So from that point, I never spoke to Sonny again. I spoke to the narrator. So I didn't really make eye contact with him a lot, and he was, because I knew he could do the softer element, and that's always what I was worried about. But boy, he never showed us, and I told him not to in our rehearsals, not to go there, because I didn't want it, to blow it in practice rather than the game. And then he came on set, and he was that. It was just, everybody knew it. You could feel it. It was tangible. He was acting his ass off, but also just really captured what I was trying to do with the character. And it was really important because, he's the unreliable narrator, and he's the main character, but he's a villain, and I don't like his character. For me, it was Micah's character, the police officer. She's the hero, and if it was a full-length movie, it's basically her movie. But I wanted to stay true to Poe's story, so it's literally that unreliable narrator and the birth of psychological thrillers. So I had to go there with it, and Sonny just absorbed it. And we worked a lot. I do a ton of pre-production. And there was just a lot of things. I'm kind of quirky, so I would just send him different things that wasn't really, acting per se that's going to help him, but, images of art and other songs that inspired me to kind of get him in that mindset. But once he was there, actually the only concern then became, is he going to be able to come out of this and then be the softer side that we need? And he juggled that. Like on the first day, we shot A through Z. It was we some of the first scenes and some of the ending scenes. So we basically went through the whole script the first day. And I told him that's how we were going to shoot. So I'd give him a level of, okay, you're at 10, okay, you're at 5, and he would just go right there. And we had different cues that he knew of, okay, this is where the character's at. And he never flinched. And kudos to the rest of the cast as well. I mean, without them, he wouldn't have had that performance, because they were so supportive of him and pushing him. And really the other characters are there to serve his character, which is unfortunate because, you know, they're great actors. James as the old man, I mean, the movie wouldn't be the same without him. And same with Taron and Micah. And what Taron brought, you know, was incredible. His intensity, that it was not written that way. And same with Micah, the character was differently, you know, it was written in a different way. So
they were kind of feeding off his performance and ramping theirs up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, my brother, he was the second AD, and he wrote the dialogue, and he was feeding them lines, but he just wasn't connecting. And then we got the other actors in there, and it, you know, it buoyed them up. And then we realized, okay, we have to have everyone on set where they literally, you know, were helping each other. So, and we went through that in pre-production as well, where it's just as simple as when you're off camera, and if you look away from an actor or whatever, you're really going to throw them off their game. So we worked as a team, and the other 3 actors who were stellar really pushed Sonny. But it's not like, I mean, he didn't need it. He was on fire. So it was like, you know, get your autographs now because this guy's going to be famous.
Yeah, I think Jason and I were really especially impressed. Mika Olsen's character and her performance. And that kind of brings me to my next question is, like, Poe's work in itself is, you could say it's very timeless. You know, we're still talking about it now. You know, Jason and I spoke while we were doing the review for this, and this film has like a real play on time in your adaptation, where each character and location feels like it could be from any era. Was that like visual storytelling as a choice, or did you have the film feature aspects of like multiple times? So, and I know it wasn't even just us too, like our buddies at like Bad Movie Night, I was watching their review of this, you know, a while ago when they got it, and they kind of made the same observation about the different times included.
Yeah, I mean, it was very, you know, it was a choice that we made right from the jump. That was even before I started the screenplay, that it was modern. And so you have a character like Micah, you know, she's female. So right there, it's like, okay, that's a certain time period. And then she's black. So it's like, okay, you're not in the 1840s. Or the 1940s where Taron is from. He's a gumshoe, you know, film noir kind of vibe.
Yep. And
then I think it was actually y'all that touched on that James is the night before Christmas and A Christmas Carol with Ebenezer Scrooge, and that's literally what he was supposed to be. I just wanted the old man to be the most benign, you know, thing that I could think of, and, you know, and then also have the edge of, you know, like an Ebenezer Scrooge, where he's, you know, a mean person, but it's in reality, he's a harmless old man. And then is kind of just like the most wholesome thing that I could think of was The Night Before Christmas. So we literally, Janelle Corey, who we did the wardrobe together, we made him look like Nightmare Before Christmas, but Night Before Christmas. Shout out to Tim Burton. But yeah,
he doesn't deserve it.
The time, it didn't matter to me. You know, we were going to use his vernacular, so it's like, it's going to sound like Poe, even though we put in, you know, modern things. And the very first line, which there's nothing on screen at that point, is Micah. She's referring to his character, that he talks like he's in an old movie. So there's little things at the beginning where we cue it for people, but you'd have to watch it multiple times to pick up on that. But I wanted to mess with space and time, because the 2 rooms that we jump back and forth, I don't want to ruin anything for anybody, but that's also a choice that we made at that very, the inception of the story, that it's going to bounce around and that time is pointless. I'm not Christopher Nolan, so, but I do like messing with time. So, I mean, he's one of my favorites. So like Memento was a big influence, a backwards movie. This isn't necessarily backwards, but it's not straightforward. It's very French New Wave with the edit and how we, present it. But we just kind of went for it. I wasn't worried, Quentin Tarantino does that, where a lot of his movies feel like they're in the 70s, but they're set in the 90s or whenever. And not that was an influence or anything, but it was just a very, it was right from the beginning that a decision made that we're going to go for this. And this is one of those things where it's like, if it works, it's going to be really cool. And if it doesn't, it will fall apart so quickly. And we all knew after the first day, because no one was certain, anybody top to bottom within the project, if it was going to work. And then when we saw the dailies, everybody knew. It's like, oh, okay. And then we were off to the races. So,
well, I kind of rationalized that by kind of thinking about it from the perspective of, you called the narrator unreliable, so if your film's being narrated by a crazy person, like all the details are a little bit suspect.
Yeah.
It could have been how he sees the one cop as like a gumshoe, and he sees the other cop as like a more modern cop. And I liked the juxtaposition of like the Ebenezer type character with the big floppy like 1880s nightcap in a modern hospital bed, and little flourishes like that. I like those details. So I kind of thought about it, if the narrator's unreliable and they're telling the story, like any weird idea they have latched onto, is they're going to express that, and then you just have to take it as it's just a crazy person telling you a crazy person story.
Yeah, it's interesting that you pick up on that. You guys will be the first to hear this. But so in the full length script, it's revealed that Micah and Taryn are actually nurses, and he's in the psych ward.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And then at the very end, they're actually POs. So or COs, excuse me, where they're about to take him to go to the gallows. And that's how the movie ends, with him hanging. We didn't do that, but yeah, they're not in those rooms. It's all in his head, and his head is the house. That's why he never leaves it. When he's at the front porch, he doesn't go outside, because like the story that Poe wrote, it's the house is a metaphor for his brain. When Poe wrote it, it was about, in my opinion, the insanity plea, which had been used 1 year previously. And so I think this is his kind of social statement on the insanity plea of, literally, this person's insane. How do you deal with this? For me personally, it's at the gallows. Because like I said, I don't like that character. I'm not a fan of the narrator. And it was tough being around Sonny for a week as the narrator, because it's like, I don't like this guy. But yeah, so they're figments of his imagination, basically. But yeah, in essence, it would be revealed later that they were nurses, that they're not. And it is all in his head. That's why one's a gumshoe and the other one's modern, and the old man. And so it'd be revealed that, the house is not even real. It's all in his head. So
that's interesting.
I went deep there.
Well, now I feel like, this short film is doing so well on the circuit, and who knows, what kind of success you're going to get from it. You might have just blown your load right now, on the show, revealing you could have made that into the feature, but, when someone gives you $50 million, but.
Yeah, I guess I would if someone really wanted to, but I've already taken those stories and chopped them up and put them into other screenplays. So it works as a short. And if I did, I would only work with those 4, and I'd add additional actors. Like I have the full-on script, but I don't want to do that. Yeah. It's really good as a short. I want to do other things, and even if that means doing, say The Cask or The Black Cat, which I have screenplays for as well, or actually scripts. So,
wow.
But whatever people want.
You know, Poe obviously is the major influence. You cited, you know, like Alfred Hitchcock with Psycho and stuff like that. What was your own like personal influences that really kind of set off your spark as a filmmaker, or like wanting to be a filmmaker?
Wanting to be a filmmaker. Kevin Smith's Clerks is probably where it was like, oh, I could do that. It's very punk rock essence of, you know, stripped down and a real aesthetic that was, you know, specific to those people in that town and their friends and their, you know, syntax and all of that. So, yeah, that was very inspirational to me. And it was just a good film, too. That's a great film. But yeah, that was probably the first where I thought like, oh, okay, yeah, I could do that. But you know, I'm a child of the '80s, so I grew up on Spielberg and Lucas and others. So all of those magical movies that came out then were, you know, major influence on me and my brother and friends and cousins and neighborhood kids. We were making crappy movies when I was real young. So I guess it's always been there. I just never really thought about pursuing it because it kind of felt otherworldly. And then through the music, I got exposed to I could do this. And it was really quick. I love all aspects of filmmaking, every last one. And people around me, like Mad Max, who's in my group, he said once we start doing these music videos, there's, you know, it's going to take off. So I just love it. I absolutely love making film. But like as far as like horror, I guess the first would be around that. So it's like whatever 1980-ish. So I had heard of The Shining. I hadn't seen it, but it was just as scary knowing all the stories that everybody was talking about. And then I snuck into my mom's room and I saw the ending of The Howling. So that'd probably be like 81-ish or something like that. And yeah, so you can blame Joe Dante for that.
A lot of people do.
But, yeah, around that. Well, I absolutely love.
We
Dante,
do too.
but,
yeah.
Around that same time, you know, and then there's previous movies like The Thing, which came out and just did nothing in the movie theater, but then was on all of the cable, and saw those, you know, that those type of movies that didn't do well, but then were on cable endlessly, and The Thing would be massive. And then going back to Halloween was mind-blowing. And I went over to my cousin, Matt Elgrins, who's also a filmmaker, for a family function, and went downstairs, and he and his brother were watching American Werewolf in London. So that was probably around 81 as well. And they let me watch it. And I've never been the same either. So that was another big one. But then shortly thereafter, the Hellraisers. And then I guess in like 87, Evil Dead 2 is like my favorite movie of all time, probably. I mean, it's literally, I'm not joking, it is there with Citizen Kane and Lawrence of Arabia. And it's a masterpiece to me. I absolutely love that movie. And Sam is amazing. But yeah, I love film. I've Kubrick at a young age, his movies, which I probably shouldn't have been watching. I shouldn't have been watching most of these movies, obviously, but the 80s were a different time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even like the first movie that I saw, which I think it was Empire, but and then Raiders as well, where at the end, I mean, there's guys' faces that are melting off. So,
and you're rated what, PG film back then, or even G maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, and then Temple of Doom, which I saw as well on opening day, blew my mind with the ripping out the heart, and then that's what we referenced in our film was Indiana Jones. So, and that, I think that was then the birth of PG-13 after that, where it's like, we have to rein this in.
Still my favorite Indiana Jones. I don't care how much flack I'll take from that.
No more parachutes.
Yeah, my daughter saw Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then I found a pamphlet for mortuary school in her room. So
there you go.
That's
like
a good
her style.
I think it's the same path. I think that's how it happens.
Yeah, Raiders. Oh, Raiders changed my life. Absolutely. Steven Spielberg is the greatest director ever. I mean, is he my favorite? No. But is he the greatest? Yeah. Yeah, he's incredible. And Raiders, obviously, everything in that's lifted. He stole everything, but it's I mean, much like what Quentin Tarantino does, but they do it really well. Raiders.
It's interesting to hear that because, obviously, you could tell that you're a huge genre fan and just a huge cinephile in general. But I think the end, or the way this film is cut, it's so fast paced and has such an energy to it. It feels more like a Sam Raimi, Evil Dead 2, or even like a Edgar Wright film. It's just real snappy. It's just so interesting to look at, and it felt like it was almost cut like an action film rather than a horror film.
Joel Petrie and Raymond Del Mar did the editing, and they knocked it out the park. I mean, it's incredible what they did. And they referenced some movies like The Raid, which, is fast. And I, referenced Evil Dead 2. Initially when I wrote the script, it was very Hitchcockian, where there was these big moments where there was this big buildup. And then we realized, with the time crunch, let's go for it. And so we did an initial edit, and we knew that we could quicken the pace and also dive headfirst into the time and space, which we did. And to their credit, that's from Raymond and from Joel, who are so talented. And they're both actors and writers and directors themselves. So numerous people on my crew are directors. That was awesome. So yeah, kudos to them. But it was also maybe my music, video background. I don't know. But once we started rolling, it was like, yeah, that's when they, there's moments where you can breathe, but when it goes, it goes. And it could have been very easy to open those up. And it was a choice that we chose to have it be very fast. So, and it was the right choice, in my opinion.
Talking about location real quick, because, shooting films has definitely grown outside of Hollywood, even outside of Europe and all that, where you see hot spots of filmmaking like in Atlanta for various reasons, and even New Mexico for some of the tax cuts. At least to me, and I might just be naive, but you don't think as Utah as like one of the hubs of filmmaking. Is there a growing filmmaking community there, or are you kind of trying to spearhead and put that on the map?
It's both. Actually, the birth of it would be Indiana Jones, The Last Crusade. Spielberg shot that in Arches National Park, and Four Corners University, where Indiana Jones, his father, taught, is in New Mexico. And it read New Mexico. And the Utah Film Commission got a hold of that and said, okay, you put New Mexico, you can't use any of this. And so they put Utah. And that was basically the birth of the Utah film. And, at that point, there was already like Sundance, of course, and lots of movies that were filmed here. Basically every Western you've ever seen was filmed here. So there was already that kind of infrastructure built around Utah to make movies, and they did. And they, as you spoke of tax breaks, there were those tax breaks. But people then used Utah as a non-union state to film, and then they would go back to California or wherever. And Atlanta, and I think a lot of this is Tyler Perry, said, no, it's here. Your production will be here. And so it's produced there, and their money stayed there. They reinvested that. And that's why Atlanta is a hub, because they took the model that Utah had done in the late 80s and early 90s. And if I just be blunt, it failed. It was kind of short-sighted, where a lot of the movies that they were pushing were centric to a certain religion that's predominant here in Utah. And yeah, that audience was pretty small. And instead of thinking big like Atlanta did, it kind of fell apart. And it's now being built back up. and there is incredible talent. So you'd be shocked. A lot of, and luckily, a lot of horror is shot in Utah. So Hereditary was shot exclusively in Utah. Most of, well, not most, but all the parts that aren't supposedly in Sweden of Midsummer were shot in Utah. And a lot of the other movies that I grew up on, I didn't even realize that they were shot in the same studio that I filmed at, Redmond Studios. Barton Fink and others, Coen brothers, and lots of movies were filmed there. And so there was and is a rich history, but unfortunately we're slowly building back up. But that was really important to me because every last person that was on my crew was from Utah. And only one was currently living out of Utah, but he's from Utah. He grew up in Utah. So that was, something that I wanted to prove, like every last person on this is local. And we have a ton of talent here. And I'll be watching movies and my friends' names will scroll through, It's like, I didn't realize you did that for this movie. It's like, yeah, I mean, Chris Hansen, our special effects, he's worked with David Lynch. And I mean, just it's too many directors to name and too many movies to go through, wow. Pirates of the Caribbean and movies like that where it's like, whoa, So there's a ton of talent in Utah. It's just we're now building it back up. And there are people looking at the infrastructure to kind of look at maybe if there can be tax incentives as well. But it's, good for Atlanta, though. That for real, though. I'm all about independent filmmaking, and Atlanta is that they've shown, okay, that's how you do it. So, in my opinion.
I mean, I remember, I told you off air that I grew up in Las Vegas, and we actually used to drive to like Zion and stuff like that to go see plays. I was a big theater kid, back in like high school and stuff. And there is definitely a talent as far as acting and production goes in Utah that I was, we were all very aware of. It was just that, kind of the cinematic, like take the next step. It's like, the people that you talk to that were in these like big grand productions, these musicals or these stage plays or whatever, they're just like, yep, I'm cutting my teeth on this, and then I'm going to go, a little bit further west and either make my name in Vegas or California. And no, I mean, it was a super rich history that was really well known, at least to the local area in the Southwest of, of how talented people in Utah are in the arts. But it's good to see that, that's now translating to the screen.
Yeah, Utah's a rich art hub, which is kind of ironic. You don't think of culture when you think of Utah, or if you do, you think of, kind of stale, white bread Mormon culture. No offense.
I think of jazz music, but that's I think
there you go.
Tricked. There you go. Yeah.
I'm missing the jazz game right now for this.
We're honored.
I'm a fanatic, so you guys owe me one, but. Yeah, there's a lot of talent here. Sonny's from Cedar City, which is the hub of the Shakespearean festival, and that's some of Sonny's background is Shakespearean, which was great. I wanted people that had a Shakespearean background, but I didn't want to use any of that cadence. So we had to work with Sonny for weeks to break his Shakespearean cadence. And but yeah, there's a ton of talent. BYU cranks out tons of talent. I don't know what it is, but yeah, there's a lot of maybe that there could be some truth to that, where maybe people are dealing with their sexuality or things of that nature, and maybe that's what they're tapping into, where it's a release for them to be creative. But there's really creative painters and poets, and I mean, there's just it's a very creative place.
It's a hub for adult beverage too. Like we said off air. Yeah. I mean, great whiskey, good breweries out there. Like Utah's really. It feels like it's that next on the bubble, like kind of like how Georgia is kind of, changing right now and evolving. I always like to look at Utah and have hopes for that. So,
Yeah, we're working with a local brewery here in Ogden called Roosters, and we're trying to do a Telltale Ale. So this
awesome.
we had it worked out, and it was pre-COVID, and then and the world stopped. So, but we'll get back on that. So we'll eventually have a Telltale Ale. And yeah, Utah was on the brewery tip early. Back in like the late 80s that we were doing breweries. So, and Colorado really is where it kind of all started on the, kind of underground tip, if you will, with, well, I guess that's Fat Tire or one of those. But yeah, it's, we're independent. We're, a local kind of vibe where our economy is always strong here because we're kind of insulated. But, yeah, the independent local, breweries or whatever. I mean, people don't really think about, booze when you think of Utah, but there's some weird laws, but it's not like there's any dry counties or anything.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear you say there wasn't. I just assumed maybe that's my own prejudice.
So when you're in Utah,
as you said, the predominant religion that we won't name.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, well, I'll buy you guys a drink when you're in town. So.
All right. Deal.
Going all over when COVID's over.
COVID's done.
Right.
We need to do a film Hooligans tour. Yeah. Hell yeah. Now that you have a film under your belt, looking back on it, the experience of leading a film, was it harder or easier than you thought it would be, or what were some of the biggest challenges you faced?
Like I said, I was so big on pre-production. I had everything kind of covered. And then once we started, it was maybe the best problem I've ever had in my life, where I think it was the third shot, which is a static, empty shot of the floorboards. And as we were setting up the gaff, Jason Rogers, who did Hereditary, Midsummer's gaff as well, he did the lighting in those. He was setting it up, and I was like, oh, okay, this is so much more than I ever envisioned, and I envisioned a lot, where I expected this to be really, really good. And then when I saw that, where it was just this empty shot of the floorboards and how much, we put into that and how much creativity went into that, right at that point, I told myself, there was a mantra that I told myself, and it was let go. Because at that point, everything that I learned up until that, I was very kind of Napoleon-esque, where I knew what I wanted and I knew how to get it. And so it was like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. And at that moment, it was like, oh, okay, I'm going to let go. And I just kept telling myself that probably about, 15 times a day with whatever else came up. And it was just like, let go. And
how much of that was being a first-time filmmaker, though? Was that a confidence thing, you think?
Oh, no, not at all. No, I'm not that person. No, if I wanted to bark and yell and crack the whip and all that, oh, absolutely. But I don't think that's conducive to being creative. And we're all there. I have a couple rules. Rule number 1 is be safe. That's it. That's all. That's the most important thing. Rule number 2 is work hard. And rule number 3 is have fun. And if you're not having fun, it's like, why are you doing this? And filmmaking is the funnest thing I've ever done in my life. So I was loving every second of it. No, I had the confidence in myself to be able to say, let go and let this be organic. And because that's filmmaking, it's a community. You work together, and you give of yourself. And I'd say probably like 90% of the people that worked on the film gave of themselves, and you don't ever get that back. What they gave to me, what they gave to my art, what they gave to our film is forever, as long as people are able to view it. And like I said, there were just the vast majority of people involved with it just gave me a little bit of their soul or their heart. And so it was really easy at that point to let go and listen and to just kind of vibe it out and know what's needed when. And I had people come up to me. I mean, it was a lot, and for me, it was beyond rewarding to have these people come up to me and say, you're one of the best directors I've ever worked with. And then I went and looked at who they've worked with, and it was like, whoa, because I knew like all of the directors that they'd worked with. I've seen all their movies, and it's like, whoa. And for me, I mean, I would go backstage and have a little crying session at the beginning of every day. Lindy Bone, my set designer, she was there, and she did props as well and set dressing. And she kind of, keep everyone away from me, because I was crying out of joy to be able to see all these people where they're typically working a mundane commercial or working on a movie where they get yelled at, or working with people that they loathe, to then come to this place where they all wanted to be creative and wanted to push this movie. I mean, I'm getting emotional right now thinking about it. So it was incredible to be able to foster that environment. And so no, it came from a place of confidence. Like, I just made the right decision. It was, I mean, I made it in about 30 seconds, where it was like, okay, here's the schedule, and here's, the call sheet, and here's, what we're doing. And then it's like, that's when you start making the movie, is when accidents and things happen, and that's when it's like, oh, okay, this is the movie. And it basically just begins to kind of form through osmosis almost. But no, it was, I believe in myself. I don't have, that kind of self-doubt where I don't think as a director you can, or you'll get run over. If you have a vision and you know what you need to get, go for it. But you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. So.
How many days did you have to shoot?
6.
Shit.
Yeah. So I went to Joe Olivas, my DP, and I was like, okay, we'll do breakfast, and then we'll do an hour's lunch, and then we'll have 2 15-minute breaks. And he was like, no, we'll do a half-hour lunch, and that's it, and there's no breaks. And I was like, what? And it's like, if you take one break, my crew and everyone, they'll just leave. It was like, what? So it's like, we're working. And yeah, you're on 18 hours or whatever. And it's like, yep, okay, let's set up the next shot. And it's 4 a.m. or whatever. And you're there again at 8 a.m. So yeah, it was, we work hard. Everybody on that set worked their asses off, and they're all professionals. And so a lot of my crew that I brought on, we were all first timers. There was a number of first timers. And so we really didn't know. And when on that first day, when we hit 12, I'm looking around and all of my crew is looking at me like, okay, you're going to call this, right? Because I've had some brutal hours that I put them through, 16 and whatnot. But that was for that was the whole shoot was that one 16-hour day. We're doing it over and over and over. But everybody was there. And when we hit that 12, the OG crew, if you will, they didn't even blink. Even as I was telling my AD, I was like, should we call it? And she was like, no. So we just kept working.
Jesus. The film certainly has a heartbeat and a rhythm to it, no pun intended, but the real pulse of it is the music. And being a musician yourself, how important was that to be such an important character, the score?
Critical, like Uber. And that was another one where everyone assumed, okay, well, that's going to be me. And I did as well. I'm going to do the music, right, and all that. And that was another one. Was like, let go. I can't do everything that I've done up until that point and then say, oh, now I'm going to, just do all the music myself. It was like, no. So, yeah, luckily, Joel Pack reached out to me, and I'd worked with him through my band, but he didn't know it was me. And he was just reaching out cold. And he's like, hey, this looks really cool, and I'd be interested. And I've written some things that you might be interested in. And so I was like, yeah, I'll drop by and talk to Joel for sure. And went in, and the stuff that he showed me was incredible. And he didn't realize, it was me, like I said. So he's like, McClain. I'm like, yeah, what's up? You didn't know it was me? He's like, no. And I was like, okay. So it's kind of meant to be. But wow, so it was his first movie. He's never done anything like this. And
he has one other music department film credit. He did a documentary.
yeah, stuff like that. But no, this was
yeah, his first movie. I get it.
Yeah, super involved where he's scoring everything and he's writing it and doing most of the instrumentation. But when he played me the theme, I just knew. I was texting everybody, and I mean, it was like, because I told him the one thing, I was like, we don't have to have a theme. I'm not expecting a theme. When you don't have a theme, I'm not going to be mad. It's like, but you think of great horror, they all have that great theme for the most part. And he came and he's like, I've got something. And the very beginning was supposed to be empty. Well, actually, that whole shot is supposed to be in Sonny's head. So he's supposed to be in a different room in different clothes, and we just shot it, just getting the light set, and he had basically people in tears, and it was like print. And then that changed the entire movie. And then within that, there was like, okay, there's no music. It was always like in the script, no music here. And Joel was like, I've written something. I was like, why? There's no music there. And he hits play, and that was the theme. And I was like, of course there's going to be music in the intro. And wow, I mean, that theme is it's awesome to have a song, a melody that after you're done with the movie, it sticks with you. It's like, oh, and it was just perfect. What he did top to bottom. And he worked in conjunction with Jake Proctor, who did the sound, and oh my goodness, the sound as well. Both the design, which he did, and the mix, and he did the design with Angela Mason as well. But wow, those guys worked in tandem, and sometimes you can have kind of a back and forth where those two really butt heads, because should sound, push this scene, or should music push this scene? And that's where a lot of fights start. Not with those two; they pushed each other.
That's great.
But the music is almost constant in it. And if it was a full-length movie, it wouldn't be that way. We would obviously let the audience breathe. But for me, yeah, it was like, I mean, music's my life. Music is everything to me. More than film by a lot. I absolutely just, music is my everything. So it was critical. And I didn't want to put that kind of pressure on anybody. He put that pressure on his own shoulders, and then he just followed through like a champ. And he doesn't want to do any other movies, but he wants to do all of my movies. So,
how did you get Jacob Proctor?
Oh, luck.
That guy's
I was gonna say,
yeah. No, he's it. So in Utah, like, everybody knew, and I didn't even ask him, and because I figured he's gonna say no. Which up until Chris Hansen and James C. Morris said yes, everybody said no. But I didn't want to ask him because I didn't want to get no. And then I figured he's too busy. And we're in the same suite. So where Redman also has multiple units attached to it. And that's where we were doing the edit. And Joel is friends with Jake, and Jake came in and actually watched some of the rushes and was like, "Whoa!" And then he said, "I want to get in this." I said, "Well, what's your schedule?" And serendipity came in again. Someone canceled, and it opened up him for that period, and we jumped on it. And he actually had to break it up, I think, over 2 different sessions, like 2 different weeks or whatever. But yeah, I mean, he's it. He's the guy. We've won awards so far with him as well, but he's totally the guy in Utah that if it's not him, it's who else did you get kind of thing, where I lucked out. And he also wants to do my future movies. Same with my DP and Joel and Raymond and then others. So basically everyone that was working on the film wants to do the next one. So
you've made a movie. It's been getting great reviews from critics. You're making the rounds, very successful rounds at the film festival circuit, as much as what that looks like in the pandemic. But what's next for the Telltale Heart?
Well, yeah. So now, just since we basically lost a year, just like everybody else, this is now February of last year, which that's when we completed the film, was in February. So it'd be, okay, now we run through the film festival circuit. Like you said, what is it going to be? I don't know what 6 months is going to look like from now. We're in numerous film festivals. I don't know if I'm going to accept all of them. At this point, they're just coming left and right. But I'll probably do all of them because I'm just going to have to assume that it's probably going to be online. So why not just do all these film festivals? But I have enjoyed even the online setting for the film festivals, where I initially I didn't want to do any film festivals, and my producers talked me into it. And
why is that, if you don't mind me asking?
Judging art is weird to me. I don't know who the rookie of the year of poetry last year was, or who won MVP of painting last year. Or
it was my 7-year-old. You didn't know.
Right. So I really struggle with awards and things of that nature, and at that point we were already talking to streaming sites, and it was just like, do I really have to do that? And at that point it was kind of no, but now it's like, yeah. And I'm really glad that I did. I've met so many really cool filmmakers, and I've had some really cool experiences through my computer and whatnot, but with a number of film festivals that we've been in. But yeah, so we're once at that point, we're still looking for a distributor, which we were talking to in March, but then the world turned upside down. And so we'll probably initiate talking to the streaming sites, because you actually talk to them first, and then if they want it, they tell you to go get one of these distribution companies, because they don't want to have to do the paperwork. They don't want to they don't want to deal with you personally, and I understand that totally. So yeah, they'll give you a list of, okay, these are, distribution companies that we work with. So AKA you need to be with one of these people if you want to have this on the streaming site. But yeah, we have a small run of VHS that we just made.
I saw that's awesome.
Yeah, it's just a throwback to the 80s. And I had a Raiders, tape. And so when people say oh, no one's watched a movie more than 50 times. Yeah, kids of the 80s did. Yeah, we watched lots and lots of movies. The same movie over and over and over. And even if you had like HBO, it was Beastmaster, which was on like 24/7. But yeah, so we're just kind of navigating this world like everybody else, which is totally upside down, where, speaking of Christopher Nolan, he couldn't get out a $300 million movie called Tenet, So I don't know. I don't know what this industry is going to look like. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm new to it.
HBO.
Yeah. And maybe that is. And so, this day was going to come. Here it is. It, is kind of forced.
But, Soderbergh was way ahead of everyone, right?
Yeah, that's true, huh? But I do the physical experience of going to the theater, man. That can't be matched ever in your home. Even if it's a home theater, it's still not matched. So that's tough for me. I don't want people watching my movie through a phone. I just don't. But if they do, that's cool. I want people watching it. So I don't want to be that guy, But I just put out a VHS.
How do you even get one of those made anymore? That's just like
a
cool, yeah.
It's easier to get a VHS than it is to get a VCR.
Yeah.
The last company that was making them just stopped.
People, I keep telling people VHS, and they're like, "Do you have a VHS player?" I'm like, "Do you mean a VCR?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah."
That's what that is.
Like,
yeah.
Haven't said VCR in a long time, but
I had a VCR DVD player combo, and I'm like, "Oh, I don't use either of those things anymore."
It's true. It's more of an aesthetic. It's kind of a fun, kind of kitschish
I'll buy the laser disc.
I like merchandise, so
Yeah.
it's fun. It's like Kiss, you know. So
Yeah.
whatever I can hawk, I will. But that was important to me, though. I had that from the beginning that I want to do a VHS. Everybody thought I was crazy. It's just something fun that I want to do, and it does kind of separate us a little bit, right? It's like it's a talking point.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's also cool that we're on VHS.
So what's next for you?
I'm just writing. I've got some things in pre-production, and so whatever anybody wants, I'm ready. I'm working on a script now called Shutter Canyon, and I've got some scripts with my brother as well, all original stuff, and I've got a trilogy of movies that I'd like to make, but it's all just, how do we do it, and how do we get funded, and who's going to distribute it, and then where does it play? So those things that which you used to kind of figure out on the backside, those all now have to be figured out well in advance, because the world has changed, especially with shooting and COVID, protocols. So, but I don't know. I'm just going to keep creating, and I get offers, but it's I want it to be right. So I won't just do something to do it. I have to have my full heart into it. I'm very myopic, so I'm not method like Sonny, but I go hard. I really get into a subject and just kind of live there till it's done. So, but I don't know. You guys tell me. It sounds like we're going on a tour.
Yeah.
So I'm driving a bus on a tour. The film Hooligans. We're going around. I don't know what the hell we're gonna do. But
you're driving
to a town near you.
Yeah, Jason and I are drinking. You're driving, and that's the plan for now. I don't know.
We're gonna paint Provo red. We're
gonna paint Provo blue.
For it, boys.
Sorry, it was just so easy. You know what? Like when Jason and I decided to make this series, selfishly we want to do it to be able to talk to just incredible like-minded people like yourself, and we just love film so much, and to be able to talk to someone like you and the other people that we've talked to has just been just a great place to geek out for us personally. But this specific episode, I think, is really going to touch the audience that we're going for, people that are interested in getting into filmmaking, people that want to know those ins and outs and everything, and what it takes to really get off the couch and really put kind of pen to paper or turn your camera on or anything like that. And I just want to thank you so much for being so candid and open with the process, and just kind of let the audience know, yes, you can do it. It doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter, just surround yourself with like-minded, talented people, and just have a passion for it. So once again, I just want to thank McClain Lindquist so much for joining us. Go check out the Telltale Heart as soon as you can. Please use this time, sir, to plug everything you want.
Yeah, we're on all social media. That was one of the big things that kind of set us apart from a lot of other productions, was our social media presence. That's how Joel saw us. And a lot of people that came on, they had already seen some of the pre-production that we were working on. But yeah, you can find us on Twitter, on Instagram, IMDb, YouTube, Facebook. We have our own website. It's telltalemovie.com. And from there, you can subscribe and see if there's any showings, through film festivals in your area, or if you are streaming capabilities. And also, you can link up to all of our sites. Please follow us on social media. We do interact with people. We're there, and if you have questions or whatever, the horror community is really supportive. It's a breath of fresh air coming from the music angle, where everyone will stab you in the back. So we're here, and if I can answer anybody's questions, or for me personally, if I was to inspire someone to create art, that's it. That's the be all end all for me. It is to be inspiring and in an artistic way. So that's critical to me. So your words meant a lot. But yeah, that would also be my advice to any aspiring filmmaker, is to go for it. Don't quit. Just work hard. You have to put in the work. Like you said, pen to paper. Have a vision, stick to it, and make the movie that you want to see. And you can't go wrong. But find like-minded individuals, like you were saying, and just go for it. Be true to yourself and make the movie that you want to see, whether it's $200, $2,000, $200,000, $2 million, $200 million. Make that movie and just put your heart and soul into it, and it will resonate, and people will, be cyclical and send you love back.
Absolutely. Thank you once again,
Cool.
sir. Jason E. Alt. This is a fun series, sir. Where can everyone find you?
I'm Jason E. Alt on the Twitter. So go ahead and check out my pin post, and you'll see that I do all kinds of crazy stuff on the internet.
And you can follow me rather at John the Host on Twitter. You could also follow this very podcast and show at film_hooligans. I will be uploading this to all your favorite podcasting sites as well, like Spotify and iTunes. Rate us and leave us reviews, and tell everyone that we are talking about films and talking to the people that make the films. So until next time, thanks for joining us.